I came up with this great idea that I was going to record this video outside, and then every place was too bright. So I chose this area that's under some trees, but the air conditioning unit is running right next to me. Oh, well, I'm just going for it. Um, and I thought also that I would open with some jokes lesson planning that AI wrote for me. And AI is usually not too bad at coming up with like dad jokes, but man, it could not come up with lesson plan jokes. Maybe lesson plans just aren't funny. I don't know. But here are some of them terrible. One is, why did the teacher sit on her lesson plans? Because she wanted to keep her ideas well grounded. Yeah, this is what I'm getting. Um, this one's just weird. How low can a teacher go when it comes to lesson planning? As low as the limbo stick of spontaneity. What is that about? It's so weird. This one, though, is funny in kind of a sad sort of way. Why were the teachers late to the lesson planning meeting? They got stuck trying to solve the problem of fitting a week's worth of content into a 45-minute class period. Ouch. Kind of funny. Anyway, but that last one does kind of get at something that I wanted to talk about now that we're moving into more of this stage of actual lesson planning. And that is this idea that generally learning doesn't stick. If you think about most tests, tests you've given, tests you took when you were a student, most of what you learn, if you took that same test a month later, 6 months later, you would have forgotten it. And yet we don't seem to think that that's weird. I think that that is weird and that we should be concerned about it. And I want you to care about it too. It's weird, isn't it? Why would we spend so much time, weeks of our time, our students' time, only to teach them things that are not going to stick? So that's one of the reasons why I started with the book Make It Stick, so that you would be more grounded in those ideas. And those are strategies that are foundational and should be built into all you do. So they should go across all parts of a lesson plan. No matter what you're doing, from the opening hook to closure, you should be thinking about what you learned from Make It Stick. But now we're going to start talking about the parts of a lesson and what order they would go in. So these would be called lesson plan formats. There's a lot of different types of formats, and we're going to look at those. And then we're going to look at strategies to use for specific parts of a lesson. So instead of like the Make It Stick strategies that would go in any part of a lesson, now we're going to start looking at specifically what strategies could you use to hook students, specifically what ideas could you use for closure, and so forth. I thought I'd show you this crazy book that I found a while back. 14,641 lesson plans. And the crazy thing about it is, like, you open it up and it's divided the lessons into 4 parts, which I disagree with a little. I think there should be maybe another part or 2, but at any rate, like, see how they flip? And like, you could be like, all right, I want this to be my hook. And and then like it creates a lesson. I, I kind of like this. And this is sort of what I want you to do for the majority of this course, is come up with 5, 10, 15 ways to hook students. Come up with 5, 10, 15 ways to introduce new information, and so forth. And then when you're planning, you literally can just like look at your list and be like, okay, the one that's going to fit best for this particular lesson is this one. And the one that's going to fit best for, this part of the lesson is this. And so you sort of, it's not quite as catchy as the flip book, but it's the same concept, right? That it would be so much easier to lesson plan if you had like some set strategies that were your go-to strategies. Now, when you're picking out strategies, a lot of strategies are terrible, and a lot of them are excellent. What do you think are the problems we're trying to solve by using the best possible strategies? I'm gonna be quiet for a second and let you think about that. What do you think are the problems we're trying to solve with better strategies? To me, like the first one, and maybe the most important one, is the problem of engagement. There's some interesting research that suggests that a lot of in an average class period, about 30% of your students are mostly zoned out for the entire class period. 30%. About 50% are half-heartedly doing what you're asking for, but giving it as little as they can and still get away with it. That's 50%. And then 20% are actively thinking and doing. All right, I hope you're disturbed by that. And I want to think about how we could get that number much closer to 100% of students 100% actively thinking and doing for almost the entire class period. But there's some other problems that I'm hoping we're going to solve through choosing better strategies as well. One is the problem that students tend to lose the joy of discovering for themselves when we use certain types of strategies where we basically just tell them, here's what you're doing and here's how you're doing it, and do it. But then also, I think there's a problem that we often believe we can teach something once and then it's done, they know it, when hopefully you've realized from reading Make It Stick that that's not a thing. So how can we keep kind of cycling back to things that we learned earlier? How can we build that in? I think often in more traditional teaching, there's very little meaningful processing or elaboration, and definitely very little real application of ideas. It's just kind of learn, spit it out on a test, learn. Yeah. I think in traditional teaching, the checks we use for understanding are often poor. The two that are most often used are, one, the teacher says, any questions? And every student knows that even if they have questions, they're supposed to just sit there. So that doesn't work. And then the other thing that I see teachers use the most is they ask some questions of the class and they just call on people who raise their hands. Okay, well, yeah, that one person knows the answer. That doesn't mean everybody knows the answer. So those are some of the things that I think are concerns. And my hope is that I can help you choose strategies that will solve those problems. So that's what's going to be happening over the next several challenges. They're all kind of the same challenge. They're all just saying, find and keep a list of excellent strategies. I've just divided them into kind of different parts of the lesson, just to kind of have the sense that you've done something and finished it and are moving on to the next. And so that at the end of the semester, you've got them all kind of neatly put into charts. As you can see, I like a good chart. So that's what's coming up, and I hope that you enjoy it. I think it's the strategies course is kind of the most simplistic in terms of there's not just a ton of deep, meaningful concepts, but it's also the most practical, and the one where at the end I think you walk away thinking, I've got a really great resource here that is going to make my life so much easier and make my teaching better, both for me and my students. So that's my hope. And I hope that my air conditioner wasn't too loud. But I also kind of hope that you could hear every once in a while the sheep in the background. See you later.